Today's lesson, amphoteric compounds and ions in the light of Bronsted-Lowry acid-base concept. In this lesson, we are going to learn Bronsted-Lowry acids and bases, and then amphoteric compounds and ions in detail. So, let's begin. The first point is Bronsted-Lowry acids and bases. First of all, let's see which compounds are Bronsted-Lowry acids and which compounds are Bronsted-Lowry bases. Bronsted-Lowry acids are hydrochloric acid, nitric acid, water, etc. And Bronsted-Lowry bases are ammonia, hydroxide ion, water, etc. Now let's see the definition of Bronsted-Lowry acids. The hydrogen containing compounds that can donate protons are called Bronsted-Lowry acids, and Bronsted-Lowry bases are the compounds that can accept protons donated by Bronsted-Lowry acids are called Bronsted-Lowry bases. One thing is observed here that water is a kind of Bronsted-Lowry acid and water is a kind of Bronsted-Lowry base. That means water can act as Bronsted-Lowry acid. At the same time, water can act as Bronsted-Lowry base. This meta or phenomenon is known as amphoterism, and water is a kind of amphoteric substance. Now let's see amphoteric compounds or ions in detail. Now the point is amphoteric compounds and ions in detail. First of all, let's see whether water is an amphoteric compound or not. This is molecular formula of water and this is structure formula of water. Here the electronegativity of oxygen is 3.5 and hydrogen is 2.1. The electronegativity difference between hydrogen and oxygen is quite high. That is why these covalently bonded electrons move towards oxygen. At one stage, this hydrogen becomes freed as proton in basic medium. That means water acts as acid. In acidic medium, the lone pair of electrons, oxygen contains two lone pairs of electrons. Using one lone pair of electrons, oxygen binds hydrogen ion towards itself through coordinate covalent bond. So we can say that in basic medium, water can act as acid, and in acidic medium, water can act as base. So water is a kind of amphoteric compound. Now let's see with the help of chemical reaction. When water is added to ammonia, which is a kind of base, that means water in basic medium, then water acts as acid donating proton, and since ammonia is a kind of base, it accepts that proton. Then hydroxide ion and ammonium ions are formed. So in this reaction, water acts as acid. Let's see another reaction. Water is added to hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid is a kind of stronger acid than water. That is why hydrochloric acid donates proton and water accepts that proton. And after that, water becomes hydronium ion and hydrochloric acid becomes chloride ion. In this reaction, we see water accepts proton. So according to Bronsted-Lowry concept, proton acceptors are base and proton donors are acids. So water is a compound can act as acid and base in different reactions. So water is a kind of amphoteric compound. Now let's see some ions. The ion is now bicarbonate ion. Let's see whether this is amphoteric ion or not. First of all, let's see the structure formula of bicarbonate ion. This is bicarbonate ion with 1 minus charge. In this case, since the electronegativity difference between oxygen and hydrogen is quite high, in basic medium this hydrogen is freed as proton. That means bicarbonate ion acts as acid. In acidic medium, this oxygen binds this hydrogen with itself through coordinate covalent bond. So bicarbonate ion can act as acid and base. Now let's see a chemical reaction. This is bicarbonate ion. When it is added to ammonia, then it releases proton and ammonia accepts that proton. After that, it becomes carbonate ion and ammonia becomes ammonium ion. So in this reaction, bicarbonate ion acts as acid. Let's see another reaction where bicarbonate ion acts as base. Bicarbonate ion, ACl, hydrochloric acid donates proton and bicarbonate ion accepts that proton. Here bicarbonate ion becomes carbonic acid and hydrochloric acid becomes chloride ion. So in this reaction, bicarbonate ion acts as base. So this is base. From these two reactions, we can say that bicarbonate ion can act as acid in this reaction and can act as base in this reaction. So bicarbonate ion is a kind of amphoteric compound. Now let's see how bicarbonate ion is formed in solution or in water. When sodium bicarbonate salt is added to water, it ionizes to sodium ion and bicarbonate ion. This bicarbonate ion is amphoteric ion. Let's see another example. Now let's see about bisulfate ion. Bisulfate ion, when sodium bisulfate acidic salt is added to water, it ionizes to sodium ion and bisulfate ion. Let's see now whether this bisulfate ion is amphoteric or not. Let's see the structure formula of bisulfate ion. This is bisulfate ion with -1 charge. Here this proton freed as proton in basic medium, and in acidic medium this oxygen binds this hydrogen with itself. So bisulfate ion can act as acid and can act as base. Let's see a chemical reaction. This is bisulfate ion. When it is added to ammonia, it donates proton and ammonia accepts that proton. After donating, bisulfate ion becomes sulfate ion and ammonia becomes ammonium ion. So here bisulfate ion acts as acid. Let's see another reaction. Bisulfate ion is added to hydrochloric acid. Then hydrochloric acid donates proton. Bisulfate ion accepts that proton. After accepting proton, bisulfate ion becomes sulfuric acid and HCl becomes chloride ion. So in this reaction, bisulfate ion acts as base. So bisulfate ion acts as acid and base as well. That means it's a kind of amphoteric ion. Now the ion is dihydrogen phosphate ion. Dihydrogen phosphate ion. Dihydrogen phosphate ion. Let's see whether this ion is amphoteric or not. When the sodium dihydrogen phosphate is added to water, it ionizes to sodium ion and dihydrogen phosphate ion. This ion is amphoteric or not. Let's see the structure formula of this ion. This is dihydrogen phosphate ion, H2PO4, H2PO4 with 1 charge. This hydrogen is freed as proton in basic medium, and this oxygen accepts proton in acidic medium. Now let's see a chemical reaction. Dihydrogen phosphate ion, when this is added to ammonia, then it donates proton and ammonia accepts that proton. After donating proton, it becomes monohydrogen phosphate ion. Mono means 1, monohydrogen phosphate ion. Di means 2, dihydrogen phosphate ion. And ammonia becomes ammonium ion. So in this reaction, this ion acts as acid. Another reaction, let's see. Dihydrogen phosphate ion is added to hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid donates proton. This ion accepts that proton. After accepting proton, it becomes phosphoric acid. Hydrochloric acid becomes chloride ion. So in this reaction, it acts as base. Now we can say that dihydrogen phosphate ion is a kind of amphoteric ion. In these cases, equilibrium sign is used because amphoteric compounds or ions are weak as acids and base. That is why In each case, equilibrium sign is used. Let's see another ion. Now the ion is monohydrogen phosphate ion. Monohydrogen phosphate ion. Let's see whether this ion is amphoteric or not. When this salt, disodium hydrogen phosphate, is added to water, it ionizes to sodium ion and monohydrogen phosphate ion. This ion amphoteric or not? First of all, let's see the structure formula of this ion. Here oxygen minus and another oxygen minus, 2 charge. Here 2 charge. This hydrogen acts as acid. This hydrogen is freed as proton in basic medium, and this oxygen binds proton with itself in acidic medium. Now let's see a chemical reaction, that is monohydrogen phosphate ion when added to ammonia, then it donates proton and ammonia accepts that proton. After donating proton, it becomes phosphate ion and ammonia becomes ammonium ion. So this is acid in this reaction. Now let's see the basic nature of monohydrogen phosphate ion. Monohydrogen phosphate ion, when it is added to hydrochloric acid, then it donates proton and monohydrogen phosphate ion accepts that proton. After that, it becomes dihydrogen phosphate ion and it becomes chloride ion. So in this reaction, monohydrogen phosphate ion acts as base. So monohydrogen phosphate ion is a kind of amphoteric ion. Let's see another ion. Now dihydrogen phosphite ion. Dihydrogen phosphite ion. Let's see whether this ion is amphoteric or not. When this acidic salt, sodium dihydrogen phosphite, is added to water, it ionizes to sodium ion and dihydrogen phosphite ion. This is the matter to be discussed. Let's see the structure formula of dihydrogen phosphite ion. This is dihydrogen phosphite ion. This hydrogen gets freed as proton in basic medium, and this oxygen accepts proton in acidic medium and acts as base. Now let's see a chemical reaction between dihydrogen phosphite ion and ammonia first. It donates proton and ammonia accepts that proton. It becomes monohydrogen phosphite ion and ammonia becomes ammonium ion. So it acts as acid. Let's see another reaction. Dihydrogen phosphite ion, when it is added to hydrochloric acid, it donates proton and this ion accepts that proton. Now it becomes phosphorus acid, H3PO3, and it becomes chloride ion. So in this reaction, it acts as base. Now we can say that dihydrogen phosphide ion is a kind of amphoteric ion. This is all about amphoteric compounds or ions. No more today. Thank you very much.